The alarm clock didn't just ring, it screamed. It was 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that feels exactly like the Monday before it and the Wednesday coming after it. For David, that sound wasn't the start of a new opportunity, it was a reminder that he had to do it all over again. He lay there, staring at the white stucco ceiling, feeling a physical weight on his chest. It wasn't a heart attack, it was life. It was the crushing reality of waking up in a life that looked fine on paper, but felt completely empty on the inside. He had the job, the apartment, the routine, but he had lost the spark. Maybe you know that feeling, the feeling where you aren't necessarily sad, but you definitely aren't alive. You're just existing. You're just a passenger in your own body, watching the days flip by on the calendar, wondering when things are going to get better, or if this is just how it is forever. If that sounds even remotely familiar to you, you have landed in the right place. Welcome to Motivational Head. We tell stories here not just to entertain, but to shift the way you see your own potential. If you are ready to stop existing and start living, do yourself a favor right now. Take 1 second, scroll down, and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. Join us, because we are building a community of people who refuse to settle for average, and I don't want you to miss the tools that could change everything for you. Seriously, click it now, and let's dive into David's story. Because what he discovered in just 5 minutes didn't just fix his morning, it rewrote his entire destiny. David pulled himself out of bed that morning with the same groggy reluctance he had felt for 3 years straight. His feet hit the cold floor, and his mind immediately flooded with the to-do list. The emails he hadn't answered, the bills that were due, the awkward conversation he needed to have with his boss, the gym membership he was paying for but never using. Before he had even brushed his teeth, he was already behind. He was already anxious. He walked into the bathroom, looked at himself in the mirror, and didn't recognize the guy staring back. The eyes were tired. The posture was slumped. He looked 10 years older than he was. He went through the motions: shower, coffee, commute, work, commute, TV, sleep. It was a gray loop. He was miserable, but it was a quiet misery. It was the kind of misery that doesn't scream. It just whispers that you aren't good enough every single hour of every single day. One rainy afternoon, David was sitting in a coffee shop, trying to escape the noise of his office during his lunch break. He was scrolling aimlessly through his phone, looking at other people's highlight reels, feeling that familiar pit of jealousy and inadequacy. He looked up and saw an old friend from college, a guy named Marcus. Now David hadn't seen Marcus in 5 years. Back then, Marcus was a mess, always late, disorganized, stressed out, the kind of guy who seemed like he was constantly drowning. But the man walking into the coffee shop looked different. He walked with his shoulders back. He was smiling at the barista. He radiated a kind of calm energy that David hadn't felt in years. David waved him over, and they started talking. Marcus didn't talk about how busy he was. He didn't complain about the traffic or the weather. He talked about ideas. He talked about his family. He seemed genuinely happy. David couldn't take it anymore. He put his coffee cup down and asked, "Marcus, what happened to you? Did you win the lottery? Did you join a cult? You seem light?" Marcus laughed, took a sip of his tea, and shook his head. "No lottery, no cult. I just stopped waking up by accident." David looked confused. "What does that mean?" Marcus leaned in and said, "I used to wake up and let the world dictate my mood. I'd check my phone, I'd rush, I'd react. I was always on defense. Then I started doing one thing. It takes 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes every morning before I touch my phone, before I talk to anyone, before I drink my coffee. Those 5 minutes changed the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of my day." David was skeptical. He had tried meditation apps. He had tried gym routines. He had tried journaling, but nothing stuck. He was too tired, too busy. But Marcus wasn't selling him a course. He was just telling him the truth. Marcus explained the routine. It wasn't magic. It was a strategy. He called it the 5-minute anchor. Minute 1, breathe. Minute 2, gratitude. Minute 3, visualization. Minute 4, the one thing. Minute 5, action. It sounded too simple to work. How could 5 minutes fix a life that felt broken for years? But David was desperate. He went home that night, set his alarm for 10 minutes earlier than usual, and promised himself he would try it for just 1 week. The first morning was a disaster. The alarm went off, and David reached for his phone out of habit. He caught himself, put the phone down, and sat on the edge of the bed. Minute 1. Breathe. His mind was racing. I'm tired. I have so much to do. He forced himself to take deep breaths. In for 4 seconds, hold for 4, out for 4. By the end of the minute, his heart rate had slowed down just a fraction. Minute 2. Gratitude. Marcus had said to find 3 things. David struggled. He looked around his dim room. I'm grateful for this bed. I'm grateful for coffee. I'm grateful my car started yesterday. It felt forced, but he did it. Minute 3. Visualization. He had to imagine the day going well. He closed his eyes and saw himself walking into the office calmly. He saw himself finishing that report. Minute 4. The one thing. What was the one thing that, if he got it done, would make today a success? He decided it was sending a difficult email he had been putting off. Minute 5. Action. He stood up, stretched, and made his bed. That was it. 5 minutes. He didn't feel like a superhero. He felt a little silly. But as he went through his morning routine, something was slightly different. He wasn't rushing as much. Because he had already decided on his one thing, the other 100 things in his head didn't seem as loud. He got to work, sat down, and immediately sent that difficult email. It took 3 minutes. The relief was instant. The rest of the day was still hard, his boss was still annoying, but David felt like he had a little bit of armor on. He wasn't naked against the stress anymore. He had started the day on his terms, not the world's terms. Day 3 was when the resistance hit. David woke up with a headache. It was raining. He wanted to skip the 5 minutes and just scroll through social media to numb his brain. This is the moment where most people fail. This is the moment where the old version of David would have quit. But he remembered Marcus's face. He remembered that calm energy. So he sat up. He breathed. He found gratitude for the sound of the rain against the window. He visualized himself handling the headache with patience. He picked his one thing. He moved. By the second week, the effects started to compound. It's important to understand that change doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in waves. David noticed that during his commute, he wasn't angry at the traffic. He was using that time to listen to a podcast instead of fuming. Why? Because in his morning visualization, he had decided he would be a calm driver. He had pre-programmed his brain. The gratitude practice was starting to rewire his focus. Instead of scanning his life for problems, his brain was starting to scan for good things automatically. He noticed the barista's smile. He noticed the sunset on his way home. The world wasn't changing. David's lens was changing. 1 month in, David's co-workers started to notice. In a meeting, when a project went sideways and everyone started panic shouting, David sat back, took a breath, and proposed a solution. His boss looked at him, surprised. David, usually the guy who kept his head down, was leading. It wasn't because he had learned a new skill. It was because he wasn't operating out of fear anymore. The 5-minute anchor had given him a foundation. He wasn't waking up miserable because he wasn't waking up passively. He was waking up with intent. Let's pause here for a second. I want you to ask yourself a question, and I want you to be honest. How do you start your day? Do you start it by reacting to other people's demands, or do you start it by centering yourself? If you are brave enough to admit you need a change, I want you to comment, "I am ready," down below. Let's see how many of us are ready to take control back. Seriously? Type it. It's a commitment to yourself, not just a comment on a video. David's transformation wasn't just professional. It bled into his personal life. For years, he had been too exhausted to date or maintain friendships. He would flake on plans because he was too drained. But because he was prioritizing his mental state first thing in the morning, he had more energy in the tank at 6 p.m. He called Marcus. They went for dinner. David wasn't the guy complaining anymore. He was the guy listening. He met a woman named Sarah a few months later. On their first date, she told him, "You have such a calm presence." David almost laughed. If she had met him 6 months ago, she would have met a ball of anxiety wrapped in a cheap suit. But the 5 minutes had smoothed out the edges. The most profound shift happened 6 months into the practice. David faced a real crisis. His company announced layoffs. Half the department was being let go. The old David would have spiraled into a depression. He would have lost sleep, stopped eating, and panicked. But the new David, the David built on the foundation of those daily 5 minutes, handled it differently. On the morning the news broke, he sat on the edge of his bed. Minute 1. Breathe. The fear was there, heavy and sharp. He acknowledged it, breathed into it, and let it pass. Minute 2. Gratitude. I am grateful I have savings. I am grateful for my health. I am grateful for my resilience. Minute 3. Visualization. He visualized himself navigating the uncertainty with dignity. Minute 4. The one thing. Update the resume. Minute 5. Action. He didn't lose his job that day, but even if he had, he knew he would be okay. That was the victory. The victory wasn't that his life became perfect. The victory was that his internal peace was no longer dependent on external chaos. He realized that the misery he had felt for years wasn't because of his job or his apartment. It was because he had abandoned himself. He had spent years serving the alarm clock, serving the boss, serving the bills, and 0 minutes serving his own soul. The 5 minutes were just a meeting with himself, a daily check-in to say, I am here, I matter, I am in control. Years went by. David eventually left that corporate job to start his own consultancy, helping businesses manage stress and workflow. He became the guy Marcus was, the one radiating light. And it all traced back to that Tuesday morning, the decision to stop lying in bed staring at the ceiling, and the commitment to just 5 minutes. So here is the reality for you watching this right now. You might think you don't have time. You might think, I have kids, I have 2 jobs, I have school. But you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to stop scrolling. You have 5 minutes to stop worrying. The 5-minute anchor isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about clearing the plate before you start eating. Here is exactly how you can do what David did, starting tomorrow morning. Don't wait for Monday. Do it tomorrow. Minute 1 is silence and breath. Don't touch the phone. Sit up. Inhale deep. Exhale slow. Tell your body that you are safe. This lowers your cortisol, the stress hormone that makes you feel anxious before you even get out of bed. Minute 2 is gratitude. But don't just think family. Be specific. I am grateful for the warm coffee I'm about to have. I am grateful for the text my mom sent. Specificity breeds emotion. Feel it in your chest. Minute 3 is visualization. Athletes do this. CEOs do this. Close your eyes and watch a movie of yourself having a great day. See yourself smiling. See yourself handling problems. Your brain can't tell the difference between a vivid visualization and reality. You are preloading confidence. Minute 4 is the one thing. We get overwhelmed because we look at the mountain. Just look at the first step. What is the one thing today that moves the needle? Identify it. Promise to do it. Minute 5 is action. Movement changes emotion. Make the bed. Drink a glass of water. Do 5 push-ups. Just prove to yourself that you keep the promises you make to yourself. David's story isn't a fairy tale. It's a blueprint. He woke up miserable for years because he was waiting for the world to make him happy. He waited for a promotion, a girlfriend, a lucky break. But happiness doesn't come from the outside. It's generated from the inside. And it's generated in the quiet moments. The misery you feel is just the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. Those 5 minutes bridge the gap. Imagine where you could be in 1 year. Imagine waking up without that dread in your stomach. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing someone you respect. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't require a degree. It requires 5 minutes and the will to try. The choice is yours. You can wake up tomorrow and do exactly what you did today. You can stare at the ceiling. You can let the dread wash over you. You can check your email and let the stress spike. And you can repeat that until another year slips by. Or you can try the anchor. You can take control. If this story resonated with you, if you saw a little bit of yourself in David, please share this video. Send it to that friend who looks tired. Send it to the group chat. You never know who is waking up miserable, hiding it behind a smile, desperately needing to hear that there is a way out. And remember, we are in this together. Thank you for watching Motivational Head. We don't just want you to watch, we want you to win. Now, I have one question for you to answer before you go, and I want to see it in the comments. What is the one thing you are going to focus on tomorrow morning? Write it down. Make it real. Go get some rest. Set your alarm. Your new life starts in 5 minutes.